Hi guys, it's Jumbo for my very first long form video. So because this week we're doing about the Book of Genesis, I thought it would be a great idea for every week, depending on which book I'm doing, I read a book description and to tell you guys what Genesis is about using my Good News Bible. So hopefully I can get better at doing these long form videos because I would want to do them every week. So this is the book of Genesis. This is the very first book of the Bible, and it was written around 600 to 400 BC. This was 600 to 400 years before Jesus, and this is what you need to know about Genesis. So the book of Genesis, meaning origin in Greek, takes us from the very beginning of the world through to the arrival of the Israelites in Egypt of Joseph. Joseph was one of the very first people to be mentioned in the Bible, a little bit before 1500 BC and a bit after Jacob. So in it, we find themes of creation, sin, and mistakes, promises and covenants. Covenants means agreements with God, and we see how God chooses one man to kickstart his plan for humanity. So yeah, it's a great one to start with. It's one of those books which you have to start with first to get onto the rest of them. It does seem long. I have tried to read the Bible from the beginning all the way to the end, and I got stuck halfway through Genesis because I forgot where I was at. So it can be a little bit confusing, but it's good when you get your head around it. So this story starts with the perfect world before things quickly go wrong. Right away, we see God putting in place a plan to save humanity, which will be eventually fulfilled by Jesus. See, as I said, this is 600 to 400 BC, and this also is written probably, sorry, it wasn't based around 600 to 400 BC, it was written probably around 600 and 400 BC. And this is using stories from a much earlier time. So it says Genesis begins with a poetic description of creation and introduces a God who, unlike the gods that non Israelites believed in, is personal and loving and wants to work with humanity to restore the world to what it was created to be. So, yeah, Book of Genesis is a great one to start with. Obviously, it's right at the beginning. That the Book of Genesis is like if you're wanting to know about what the Bible will become and the about God. And I was reading a few weeks ago in Christmas time, and it was a prophecy in Genesis about Jesus. So if you're wanting to know about God and people like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, I would start in Genesis in my opinion because it's starting from the very beginning. You know what's happening if you're not like me and get stuck, and yeah, you know what you're doing. So this is another reason why you should read it. This book is action packed. There's stories of creation, Adam and Eve, the Tower of Babel, Noah and the Ark, Abraham, Joseph wrestling with God, Joseph in his fancy coat, and two nations being saved from famine. Yeah, so as I was saying about these people in the Bible, it's very, very, I think keep on saying it's a good place to start. And I've not properly read Genesis, but I would like to do it, try and do it start to end. So this is a book to read to find out how the story starts and to learn about God who creates, gives purpose, and sets the greatest promise into motion. This is also a promise in a book of Genesis. Right after Noah's Ark, it talks about God sent a promise and a covenant, like it was mentioned earlier, that he would never destroy, as in flood, the earth again. So these are four key characters: Adam, included in the story of Adam and Eve, and temptation. And then there's Noah. Noah was with Noah in the ark, and he took the animals in. Probably one of the most famous stories in the Bible. Abraham, I believe. Abraham, yeah. I'm not sure about Abraham. I've not read that much into Abraham before, but I think he was around 1800 BC. That was so quite a long time ago. And there is also Joseph and his fancy coat, where he was sold into slavery by his brothers. Drop in the comments. Have I got that right? So as I was saying, yeah, these are key and main characters in the Bible. So it doesn't go in this order though. It goes from creation, then to Noah and the flood, also known as Noah and the ark. Then it goes into Abraham, or in the 1800 BC. And then it goes into, this isn't mentioned, but I've not mentioned it yet, but Isaac. Isaac was someone in the Old Testament. Not read much into about Isaac in the Bible, but just when I read in Genesis a bit more this week, or think we'll have a look into Genesis, into Isaac and Abraham. And then it went to Isaac and then to Jacob. Jacob's another one I've not mentioned, but he came a little bit before 1000 BC and a little bit in between 1800. In between. So yeah, Jacob was in between 1800 BC and a little bit before 1500 BC. So yeah, and then after that is Joseph. One of the books stories I know was that he was sold into slavery. I believe. Yeah, it was him, not someone else. Not someone else. And he was sold into slavery by his brothers, and became, and he was Joseph and his dreams when he was in prison for quite a while under Pharaoh. He became one of Pharaoh's advisors, I believe. So yeah, and then it goes into the book of Exodus. We'll be talking about Exodus next week because it's one of my favourite characters from the Bible in it, which is Moses. And I'm excited for next week when we do that. So yeah, that was your talk about Genesis. I like these. I will definitely be doing them every single week until I've done every single book in the Bible. Then at the end, we'll do a compilation of them all together to end off. Will be nearly 2 years of the channel then. Oh my days. So yeah. Anyway, I don't normally know how to end long form videos. So yeah, that's the Book of Genesis. My name is Jumbo, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.